radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. How you doing? It's Fade to Black. Today is Monday, December 29th, 2025. Let's do this, man. Yeah, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Whew, what a weekend. This week on Fade to Black. Tonight, Amanda, Romania joins us, Akashic Records, and Egypt this evening. Tomorrow night, the Leo King returns because 2026 is here. Yeah, crazy. I don't know where the year went. Everybody says that, but I really mean it this time. Where did the year go? Wednesday night, we're off air because it's New Year's Eve. Thursday off air because it's New Year's Day. Friday, we never do a show. And it's weird how Christmas and New Year's timed out the way that it did with Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, that's a long weekend for everybody, even me. And it did nothing but rain out here, everybody, just so you know. The sun came out a little bit on Saturday, so I got to ride for a few minutes, and then I went out to ride yesterday, and it was so cold, and I thought I was all, had all my gear on. I was going up, and I was like, well, this is going to be short. I just rode through town slow as I could, trying to avoid the wind. Anyway, circle back in and park the bike, and then it turns out it's going to rain again this week on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. There you go. Now, New Year's Day, I'll shoot some video and take some pictures. But New Year's Day, me and this group that I ride with, it's our gang, our biker gang. Everybody. Oh man, I say that so loosely. Anyway, we're gonna do a long ride. We're gonna leave at 6 a.m. on New Year's Day, and we are driving east. I'm not gonna say where, because if I say where, a stalker's gonna show up and be sitting at the table of where we are going. It's happened. Okay, it's literally happened. Oh man. Yeah. I said, I'm going to be at this restaurant, on Friday night, and I'm going to go. It's going to be great. And I show up at the restaurant, and I know everybody there. And the hostess goes, your guest is waiting for you. She's sitting in your booth. I said, what? What? And I was with a couple of friends, and I'm walking to, like, what's going on? I went, what? Yeah. So I can't do that anymore. I can't. But New Year's Day, I'm going to be spending with friends, and we're going to go somewhere really, really cool. So there you go. Hey, I wanted to mention really quick before I jump into things. On Thursday night, because tonight's show is going to be amazing. Amanda, Romania is here. My two favorite subjects, right? The Akashic Records and Egypt, all in one show tonight. So buckle up, kids. It's going to be great. But on Thursday night, and I want Amanda to hear this. She's backstage. At the end of the show on Thursday night with Dave Schrader, at the very end of the show, if you didn't catch it, go back and watch the last 10 minutes of the show, where this very loud noise happened. Now, if I don't speak like this, you don't hear anything, because this is a soundproof professional studio. it's dead in here, right? There's nothing, everything is acoustically tuned, and so it's dead. And I'm used to this, right? There's no noise. And at the end of the show, there was a loud crash, like something very large was dropped from a great height. That's what it sounded like to me, like something crazy just fell, like a refrigerator tipped over or something. It was loud. And you saw me take off the headphones, and I looked around, and here nothing had moved. It was pretty crazy. I asked Dave, it was from his end. He didn't hear it, which was strange, but all of you did, and it was very loud. So after the show, I spent a good 30 minutes looking at everything. Now I'm going to go and edit that video down and post it. Well, I won't edit it; somebody will. But I'm going to have that last portion of the show. I didn't go back and listen to it, but I spent a chunk of time looking for. There was nothing. When I say nothing, there wasn't a pen out of place. I don't know what could have made that sound. And I'm perplexed. I'm perplexed. So if you heard it, you know what I'm talking about. If you're wondering, nothing moved. Not a single thing. Nothing. I am it's strange, isn't it? Always when we're talking about ghosts on this show, right? Remember the creek? Yeah, it's so that's my follow-up, and it was just very, very bizarre. Yeah. Okay, so it's not resolved. My next event coming up is the Conscious Life Expo, which is February 20th through the 23rd, 2026 at the LAX Hilton. The links for that are below over on our website and throughout social media. Just go to consciouslifeexpo.com. You've got a full schedule, speakers. There's 200 speakers there. So when you have that many speakers and that many rooms and you have 25,000 attendees, there's lots to do. So go visit Conscious Life Expo and start to figure things out and map things out. But I'll see everybody there at the LAX Hilton, and pay special attention to what is going on Saturday night, because we are going to do a play, and I'm in the play. It's good. I mean, it's one of those things where, okay, you just think you're just gonna, just go through this, and no, it is written so well. It is so good. I'm very excited about this. So it's myself, Danny Brinkley, and Debbie. What was I going to say? I got ahead of myself. It's one act, 3 people is what I meant to say. So it's Danny and Debbie and myself, and it's just really well done. It's well written. So please come and check that out on Saturday night. With that, man, all long-winded because I never do this at the beginning of the show. But that thing on Thursday night and that noise bothered me, and it bothered me all weekend. Nothing out of place. Very strange. Very strange. All right, tonight, Amanda Romania joins us. Akashic Records with some Egypt thrown in just for good measure. And I love the Akashic Records. She's got a new book out, Return to Egypt. So we're going to go through all of that, soul contacts and past life stuff and Egyptian wisdom. We're going to do all of that and much more. Her links are below. And there you go. I'm going to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Amanda Romania. She's right there. Amanda, welcome. How are you?
Thank you, Jimmy. I'm great. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with everyone.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, and you're live from Sedona. Hey, did you guys before I ask, did you have a great Christmas and stuff? Did you guys get a taste of the rain that we had out here last week?
Yeah, we've had we call it like a late summer, and then it's gone into rain. And what's interesting is all of the clouds come down. So literally all of the red rocks are submerged in clouds. And that means the frequencies are shifting. Things are shifting in the vortexes because they keep the people more or less out. They can't hike. So yeah, we've had a lot of activity.
Wow, fantastic. It's already the most beautiful place in the world. Does the rain bring out the colors even more?
So the rain kind of resets everything in a different alignment here in Sedona. And when you're watching the cloud formations, you're getting a lot of cosmic galactic activities. So I don't know if you remember, Jimmy, at one of the Ascension events a few years ago, we actually had the snow come in. And that was in March. Yeah.
I was there. Yeah.
You were. And so it's things like that where when the snow comes in or the rain comes in, everything kind of shifts around because it's a little bit about the chemical structure of the red rocks. So there's all that copper and magnesium and the things in the rocks that when you start putting water on at the altitude with the warmth, everything starts to amplify.
But okay, I love the answer, and I just learned something. But I was asking, what was the beauty like with the rain? Is it enhanced?
Yeah, the beauty is spectacular. And where I live, it's you kind of come up over into West Sedona, anyone that's been there. So you have the full Thunder Mountain panorama, and you can see all the way up as it kind of goes up into the valleys. And it's just so clear and pristine. You see everyone go out with their cameras, they're doing photos.
Right.
It's a photography delight.
There is nothing like selfies in Sedona. I mean, you get the perfect backdrop, no matter where you're facing, right? You could be at the McDonald's there in the parking lot, and you got a great backdrop.
You know, that's one of the most photographed McDonald's in the
It has to be, yes.
Because it's the only one with a green arch. Everyone else has yellow. We have green.
Of course you do. It's Sedona. I was going to say it should be lotus flower blue. That was a good joke. That was a Sedona joke.
That's a
Nobody
Sedona
else, but Sedona right now, they're cracking up. They're cracking up. That was a good Sedona joke. You get the first time guest disclaimer before we get started. So let's get that out of the way, which is this, Amanda. It's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. Mm-hmm. Now you have to accept so we can move on.
I totally accept. I can sit on the sofa all day with you.
You say that now. We haven't gotten to the end of
I'm English. Show. We're hospitable.
That's true. I can I say one thing about England before we get into tonight's show?
Of course.
The English people are about the coolest MFers on the planet. I mean, I just love going to England. I just absolutely love it. And one of the things that I really appreciate, first off, you guys have had thousands of years to figure it out, and that's very evident. But the second thing is you guys love community, you guys love food, you guys love laughter, and England is one of the most kookiest, haunted, craziest, historical places on the planet. Everybody lives there, and it's just a great place. I just love England.
Thank you.
I just love you. I didn't even have a bad joke about England.
That's
I would feel guilty.
I think, Jimmy, I think it's your past lives. I think they're reminding you it's a hometown for you as well.
Well, next year I'm going to lead a tour. It's the Monty Python tour, and we're going to be up in Scotland, going to all of the castles from the Holy Grail. Oh, and so when the tour company approached me about this, and they said, I said, you know what? I would only do that if we could go to all of the castles from the Holy Grail. And they went, you got it. and they put this whole thing together, and we're gonna go to the Bridge of Death from the Holy Grail. Yeah. We're gonna watch the movie. It's gonna be great. I am just in love with England, and you're right about that, where it could be a past life thing. I don't know why I relate to it. My ancestry's from there, but I just relate to all things England. I get it. I don't vibe with Germany or Sweden or Denmark or I just I don't resonate with Czechoslovakia, Romania. Well, a little bit with Romania.
That's just my name. It's an inherited name. Everyone asks me if that's where I'm from, but it's not.
Well, it's a great last name, by the way.
Thank you.
But yeah, I really do resonate with it. It may be a past life thing, and it's the same thing with me for Egypt, and dealing with what you do. And I want to do a little Akashic Records 101 if we can for everybody, but the DNA of us, it slowly trickles down to originating from a few sources. And one of them is there in the Middle East, Mesopotamia, ancient Sumer, and of course, Egypt. Is it just like an automatic thing? I don't want to sound naive here, but is it just an automatic thing where all of us really do have ties back to that area? And it's easier for us to access some of that because of the origins of humans?
I think for a lot of us, we sometimes grow up with the mysteries of Egypt and we've kind of been fascinated with it. But in my experience with doing past life regressions with people or doing ancestry work with people, Egypt is often something that comes up as a theme. And it's often times of change or consciousness. And I think that's the movement that people are looking at now, where they resonate with that, because for me, Egypt's the only place you can see the past in the present that helps you with the future. And there's something psychological, biological that just resonates with a large group of people with that. And I think when you're taking people to these sacred places, some of them will go through as a tourist, and then some of them will go through as if they're living in the dream.
Oh, I've done it. I didn't think I would have, I'm going to say thinking thoughts in the same sentence. I didn't think I would have these thoughts when I was there. But once in a while, it's a big country with a lot to see and explore and learn. But there are certain spots where you're walking through and you're like, I know where everything is.
Yeah.
It's like this weird thing. I used to live here. It's weird. You actually can have those thoughts, and I've had them. Mm-hmm. And surely I'm not the only one, am I?
No, definitely not. Because with Egypt, very much when you're there and you're tapping in and you have, how do I describe it? It's when you have it like in your passport. So you're entering a temple. The temple recognizes your frequency. Mm-hmm. And that could be with the physical temple as it is, or temples from 3, 4 to 10,000 years ago. It recognizes that, and then it opens information. It opens your antenna to the Akashic field, and you're registering information. And so it's a little bit like turning on the Wi-Fi or the Google of that location.
I was at the Temple of Horus, Isis, in have you been there?
Are we talking Isis as in Philae Temple?
Yeah. Have you been there?
As in Edfu?
No, Philae.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, both. That's a.
Edfu's
but anyway,
a big one for you.
Well, it was the island for me. So anyway, let me just briefly tell you what happened. And I didn't understand it. But anyway, I'm there. And we have about 80 people. But normally I like to separate off of things. I let somebody else lead and speak. And I like to go and get lost by myself. And I was off doing that. And I walked in the main entrance. and into the courtyard there. And I started to spin. That's the best way I can put it.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked out, and I was just, there's no place to sit or anything. I wasn't really looking for that, but there was nothing to do. So I walk out and I go down to the gift shop down at the bottom, and I get a big thing of cold water. I pour it on my head thinking that was it. Of course that was. And I changing colors, acting weird. It's kind of fun. But I walked up to the top where the cliff is next to the other smaller temple, the really nice one, and that overlooks the Nile. And I'm sitting on that cliff, and I've got my eyes closed, and everything is pink. It's the only thing I can explain. Anyway, I opened up my eyes, and everything is panchromatic color. It was weird. And I'm just sitting there dangling my feet and enjoying it, going, what is going on? I just walked through like a vortex. And a friend of mine comes up and taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, man, can I sit here with you? I go, this is what I said. Not now, man. I'm doing my thing. And I put up my hand, and he backs out. I didn't even, and so he sits, and I just let it ride out for like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Incredible. It was just absolutely incredible. It's a very special place. It's very spiritual, but I didn't have a guide with me like you to go, okay, this is what's happening. Let's talk through this. But I didn't. I did it by myself. But that's what Egypt does when you least expect it. And different sacred sites around the world, even in Sedona, this can happen to you, can it?
Yeah, and I call it's like a hidden veil that's ready to be revealed when it's the right time. And so I see lots of people go and they're trying to do ceremonies, and it's getting difficult, and they're trying to control what they're needing to do. And my thing is, I'm going to give you the information, I'm going to give you the hotspots, but then you're freestyling. Because you need to connect. You've come back home and you're regridding, you're reconnecting with it. And it's very often for the experience of where you're located is where we would do the morning greeting with the sunrise. And that's where it all changes color, and significantly it goes pink. It's like a rose color that we resonate with the rose quartz frequency.
Really?
And so, yeah. And so I've tested that theory with people. What color are you seeing? I'm seeing a pink dome. I'm seeing rose quartz again and again and again.
It's usually pink with me too. Mm-hmm. Also, I don't like talking about this because I don't want to contaminate other people's experiences or expectations. So I keep most of this stuff fairly personal. So I'm going to speak in a general way. Two colors envelop me: pink and turquoise, like an aquamarine, not sky blue. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like a turquoise aquamarine. Those are the two colors that come in. It's like London fog, right? It's like London fog. And those are the two colors. I don't want, please, everybody have your own experience. But what does that say to you?
One of the experiences that I provide, or if I'm doing private session or regressions, and I've even done this with groups, is we will kind of show them an image of that temple. And because I remote view people into locations, we will often always go through what color is it you're seeing, you're working with. And so the color represents the frequencies or the soul path that's there. So for you, it's pink. That's often heart, divine feminine, gentleness. And with the blue, it's often throat, speaking truth. But if it's a turquoise, with the ancient Egyptians, they had turquoise in their signature colors. So there was the lapis blue, the turquoise blue, the carnelian. These were frequencies. You see them on Tutankhamun's mask. You see them on the mummies, where that was their signature colors. And so that gives us a clue then, this is what you would have been doing, who you could have been, where you were at. And chances are, we had children in those temples. We had babies. People were born into temple. And that's where they were nurtured in that love and light very early on age.
Turquoise is so special and it's special now to us, but back then it was the rarest of the rare. There was no turquoise in Egypt.
No.
Okay. All right. Here's a little history lesson for all of you Bader nuts. Turquoise came from the Sinai. So the pharaohs would get little small armies together and they would leave Egypt. They didn't leave Egypt too often. There was no reason to. Egypt had everything, right? They loved their country. But once in a while, and they would march up to Sinai, and on the top, and there is a temple that's been buried, but it's up there, a temple for the turquoise. I forget the name of the specific turquoise god that was there. But anyway, little tiny tunnels. And they would go in and mine the turquoise, but the turquoise wasn't chunks. Turquoise was little, and these miners would be in there all day long to get a little handful of turquoise. It was precious stuff to the Egyptians. So they would have to send armies out to the Sinai, get a few bags of turquoise and bring it back. And that's how that was a real precious stone to them. It's an incredible part of Egyptian history. There's no turquoise in Egypt.
And there's another interesting fact I don't know if you visited the Step Pyramid out in Saqqara area. Mm-hmm. It's one of the oldest pyramids. Mm-hmm. A few years back, most people come in from the top and you can look down.
Right.
And I was working with some archaeological teams. And so I was really lucky. They let us go in from underneath. And so you go down, down, down. You're on the levels looking up. Mm-hmm. And you go through these tunnels and it's all turquoise little, like little tiles.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like little tiles. And there's rows of them. And they're I'm teeny tiny, so I can run through there. But I kept imagining what it must have been like for the priests with maybe a lit candle in the dark, trying to navigate these tunnels, and they go down and down and down.
Those tunnels are frightening, scary.
I spend a lot of time.
You need to have like a roll of string. That's what you do. You go in there with a roll of string. It's kilometers of tunnels. Mm-hmm. Kilometers there. It's just incredible. I am sure you could. I'm not speaking as fact, but I'm feeling pretty confident about this. You could be walking in those tunnels underneath and come across a body and go, look, it's a mummy. No, man, that's a German tourist from 2015. Yeah, it's like that down there. It's pretty incredible. And the other, when you go in from the top, as cool as other pyramids are and other sites in Egypt, but when you go in and you look down into the, that round, well, I guess that's the burial chamber because anyway, that part doesn't matter. How big it is. It's ginormous. I know. And you don't get that. And the Step Pyramid, for me, people dismiss it because it looks shabby in photographs and it doesn't have the elegance of other things. When you see it in person, it is beautiful. Outside and inside, it absolutely incredible. But what you don't understand is how complex and how large it is on the inside. It's ginormous. When you go up to the edge and you look down, like, holy crap, how did they do this?
And it's all down underneath.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. Kilometers of tunnels. Mm-hmm. I forget the number, but I think it's like 10 kilometers of tunnels. It's a lot of tunnels.
There's a lot of tunnels. I think for me, there's a whole inner city that was there at some point. A lot of people now are tracking Egypt back into like 12,000 years ago. So some of the sites they've seen in Malta, they're uncovering now, and people are kind of in their aggressions seeing these timelines that there was something there even before this.
It feel if I what's your take on the way I listen to my eyes. I believe what my eyes see.
Mhm.
Okay, that's I trust that more than when somebody says something to me, when I read something or whatever. But when you're there, doesn't it just feel older
Mhm.
than we're taught? Not, and I don't want to get all conspiratorial. I would love to do that, but I'm not even insinuating. What I'm saying is, you just walk and you see something that looks old, and then you see something that looks ridiculously old. You know what I mean? And you can see it right there where something's not quite right. You're looking at a stone block that's a couple of few thousand years old, and it's pristine. And then right next to it, you're looking at something that's completely worn down and weathered and has lost its shape. Clearly, one is thousands and thousands and thousands of years older than the other stone, right? Do you get that same feeling?
So how I describe it is most of the temples that we see in Egypt now, Edfu, Philae, we kind of equate them back to, I think it's like 300 BC when we had Alexander the Great come over, and he did a lot of rebuilding. But for me, when we're tracking them, we're tracking them we're tracking what's in the crypts, we're tracking where the ley lines would have been, where things were then placed in or modernized that we currently see with our eyes now. So there's in Karnak Temple, you enter in, and every pharaoh kind of did their mark and rebuilt. But there's a very specific old stone that's a massive piece of, it's almost like a white granite as you walk in. And there's something that's very different frequency wise with that stone to all of the other stones. So for me, I've always seen it that other aspects of, I call it things were moved, because we know that Egypt thousands of years ago wasn't just the dry continent it is now. We know that there were waterways. So if that's been waterways from the Mediterranean or waterways from the Atlantic Ocean, we were able to move things and move stones through those water caverns to bring them to certain places that then they would activate, and then they got left behind.
The book, which is called Return to Egypt, how did you approach that, or did the book come to you?
So I've been working on this project a long time, and I started it with a sister book that was called Return to the Temple. And what I did was I took my experience through Glastonbury, I took my experience with the oracles, the priestesses, the journeys that I took, and I kind of wrote a storyline about that. So it's my life that's woven into a story about a character called Anna and her discovery of Glastonbury, psychic gifts, as she's preparing to go to Egypt. And so the sequel book that's coming out is Return to Egypt, and that's when she actually starts to go to Egypt. And she's visiting the temples, she's experiencing firsthand, like I did, this, I think I'm going crazy. What is this? I'm seeing things, feeling things, knowing things, and I have no business in this world. But then I had every business in this world because that was the role I was supposed to do. So that's why I wrote it, to kind of give a biography, but in an easy reading for someone to kind of follow the journey.
I'll tell you something scary. If I have a Pandora's box, here's one. It's a scary thought that we almost didn't find out about Egypt. Egypt was forgotten for almost 2,000 years, from Cleopatra all the way up to Napoleon. buried under sand. Nobody visited. There was no reason. Nothing. Rumors, right? There were rumors, but nobody went there. Everything that we now know about Egypt is in a modern context because of what Napoleon did, and him getting his butt kicked by Horatio Nelson, getting stuck in Egypt, right? So he goes and explores the country and did so much, and of course the Rosetta Stone and everything else. But in 400 AD, it's actually 424 AD, the last hieroglyph was carved on a temple by a priest. That was the last one, and we can date that. After that, that was it. That was the last person that could read or write ancient Egyptian sacred script. Isn't that crazy? Like, it just the most powerful, advanced country in the world just faded to black.
Yes.
I can't believe I snuck that in. But
I was just going to say that. So here's,
it's incredible how doesn't it? It makes me anxious to think that, man, what if Napoleon didn't? What if? Right? We were pretty close to not knowing anything.
So here's my take on that. When I've done my regressions and my kind of historical fact detective work, especially in the Akashic field, what I found out was that while Cleopatra, the last true pharaoh of Egypt, Cleopatra the Seventh, she kind of tried to bring Egypt together. She tried to do the rituals with the temples, but then you mix it with Rome. And you start to mix it with Julius Caesar, you start to mix it with Mark Antony. And so she's trying to kind of navigate this Egypt, Greek, Roman, bringing it all together. She had a very powerful sister called Arsinoe. And Arsinoe actually captured Julius Caesar at one point in Alexandria. So we could have changed history. And this is around 44 to 50 BC. Arsinoe was sent away, and she was sent to Ephesus, and she was sent to the mystery school in Ephesus, which removed a lot of the sacred oracles, the mystery schools. And it was at that point, the priests and priestesses, we had nowhere to go. So we all kind of departed in our own way. We tried to come back through biblical times in reincarnation. And then we've been trying to come back for the last 2,000 years. Now, Napoleon, it was said that his wife, Josephine, was an oracle, a gifted intuitive in her own right. So she was seen as, maybe in earlier days, they would have called her a sorceress, but she was seen as very powerful. She had a lot of insight that would guide him. So that when he got to Egypt and he was bringing things back, he came back with things such as the Dendera Zodiac. These kind of things have all been moved into various different museums around the world for safekeeping until perhaps one day they can all go back. So historically and commonly.
Do you think that will happen? I mean, honest. I'll give you one example. Well, why I don't think it will happen. Think of Nefertiti's bust. Yes. Go to the Met in New York and go through the Egyptian wing. Mm-hmm. They took half the country, man, and brought it to New York. It's all right there. They have a whole temple from Dendera at the Met. Have you seen that Dendera temple? Yeah, right. And you walk in and you're like, wow. And then they show all the photographs on how they,
how they rescued it. And it was made because it was going underwater. Jimmy, this is how I'm British. So, I'm American, actually. I'm an American citizen. But because I have that Britishness, we can use certain words to navigate. So I can be in, different camps and different places. And so that's how I find out the things that I need to find out to help in the ways that I do. But here's something about the artifacts that have gone. Some went into Berlin. That was Nefertiti's bust. There was two of them. Mm-hmm. There was two. And so one went to Berlin. The other one, the deal was with the Egyptians that anything you found, if there was two of them, the excavators got one and Egypt got the other. the Germans kind of took the one with the color. So the blank one that wasn't painted, she stayed in Egypt, and she's kind of probably buried somewhere under the Cairo Museum. Then things went to Paris, things went to London, things went to New York. And what's interesting about all of those cities is they have very, very strong mystery school, theosophical society links, a lot of hidden society. And what they also have is they have those obelisks. So they have these Egyptian markers that are placed. So it's my aspect that perhaps these things chose that they wanted to go there, because then that sends a grid of energy out around the world, and it helps us.
I like your positive thinking.
You have to.
Yeah, I like that. Except, man, people were just stealing shit from Egypt, and it just
Oh.
makes me angry. It just makes me to go through the effort to load up an obelisk on a ship that you are stealing, right? All of that effort that goes into it, it's not right. The row of sarcophagus at the Met, at the British Museum, you look at all, you're like, man,
Yeah.
it's cool. I appreciate that I can look at it, but you stole it, right? And here's the other thing. I'm so glad we're on this subject, because I love this subject. When Napoleon got his butt kicked, and he did, and that was his first loss, right, was in Egypt. And in 1801, when they negotiated, the British negotiated the peace treaty there, this is what they did. They said, okay, Napoleon, France, you can keep your leaves and your twigs and your animals. You get all that stuff. Everything else goes to Britain. All of it. And that's how they got the Rosetta Stone. You know, and the British are not going to give it up. I know I understand. I'm not.
No, no.
There's no way it's ever going back to Egypt.
Yeah. And this is why, for me, it's a karmic aspect, that there's more life and more energy and frequency in these sacred pieces, that they're doing the work that they have to do. When they've completed their work or completed their mission, perhaps they'll come back. But at the moment, they're busy, they're active, they're working, and they're helping those that come to visit that maybe don't get that chance or opportunity to come to Egypt. So it's sparking that interest, it's sparking that activation. You know, in the Louvre, how they've displayed the Dendera zodiac is very beautiful, very powerful, and it's actually a stargate. So I wrote about that in my Return to Egypt book, how my character, she goes in and she starts seeing it, because where it's positioned from Dendera Temple is actually in one of the levels where there were birthing rooms up to afterlife rooms. So all those layers in Dendera, and that's where the zodiac was, which created that energy portal.
Can we talk about the Dendera zodiac for a second?
Yes.
Okay. First off, just so everybody understands, when you go to Dendera, oh, by the way, when you walk on the roof of Dendera, right, to go into those rooms on the top, is that the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life? Is that whack? You don't realize how big of a temple and the construction, you don't appreciate until you walk on the roof and walk around, and it's insane. Anyway, so when you go into that room where the zodiac was on the ceiling, the zodiac is there. It's a cast. Right? So they were kind enough to make a cast of it and put that in Dendera on the ceiling. It should be the opposite. We'll make a cast and keep it for ourselves, and we'll give you the original back. That's my take. Anyway, when you look at, I've only seen the facsimile Dendera zodiac, but when you look at it, it is as modern of a zodiac as anything that you can imagine. How was this knowledge possessed by them, and what were they seeing something that is absolutely, anybody that looks at it would know that they're looking at a zodiac. It's pretty incredible what knowledge is in that zodiac, isn't it? It's incredible.
Yeah, and because they were so gifted in astronomy, but they were also gifted that, for me, they had ET contact. They were able to connect into their cosmic brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
And when you go up onto that top, there's that small little temple to, they call it to the goddess Hathor. But if you look at them, it's kind of like these ET heads, where it's connected to other extraterrestrial races. And people were trained or gifted where their senses were open to receiving cosmic knowledge and cosmic wisdom. I don't know if you've ever in Egypt been able to go there and stay overnight in any of the temples. Or
I can't talk about that publicly.
Yeah. Okay. I've spent time being there, and when it's dark and the stars are there, it's a very different frequency. When I go to Philae, we go in the light, and we go in the nighttime in the dark. And it's two different, entirely different teachings. So for me, if I'm able to access that, if you're someone that's living there all the time and you're worshiping, and, you know, they would take the Blue Lotus, they would take the, you know, the enhancements, you're going to be able to receive it in the same way we do now with the Sky Guide apps on our phones. And this is how they marked it. And they marked it with the different systems. And I think on the Dendera Zodiac, there's actually, they have timelines of prophecy and eclipses hidden into it.
Oh, there's a whole story. There's a whole origin story there. You can see it. I can't read it, but you can see the flow and the intention.
Yeah. So it's about knowing what's there and then going section by section as it resonates with you. But for a lot of them, they believed in the afterlife. So you were going home to your star lineage. You were going home to your brothers and sisters. You weren't passing on or, you know, going into a grave of such. You were going into an afterlife.
Did you, well, I'm going to ask you directly. I don't know what your answer is going to be. Have you been to the underground Pharaonic Lake behind Dendera?
Yes.
You've been down there. You're the first person that I have. I've been there.
I've been to that area, not necessarily down there, but I've gone to that area, because that's one of the, on the back of Dendera, there's like a massive head to Hathor with the gods going to each side. And so that is the portal of light that actually opens that temple. So even though you've got everybody coming in the front, there's a party in the back.
So in the back, which it's for the audience, it's very large, and there is an ancient wall that protects the back half of the temple. It's very, very large. I have no idea. It's big. It's big. It's big. Many, many football pitches. But out in the middle, towards the back, towards the wall in the sand, is a 100-foot granite staircase that goes 10 stories underground to a lake. And it's as sacred as anything you can experience. You can't wear shoes. The priest won't let you. No electricity, no flashlights, no electronics, nothing. And you're not allowed to talk. Yeah. And I went down there. It was incredible, incredible, incredible. And especially what happened to me. When I came back out of there. And so the priest said to me, as we were descending the stairs into the darkness, he says to me, he goes, "This is where the pharaohs came to get their questions answered." I was like, man, you're putting a lot on this, man. You're putting a lot on it. But it was all of that. So anyway, went down, had this crazy spiritual experience, came back out. It went further. Anyway, so I called when I got back to the States, because I've been to Dendera a few times. That was the only time. It was on my birthday, so they did this special thing and took me down there. But I got on the phone. I called all of my, I want to say this correctly. I called my alchemist friends, my real, the friends that I have that are truly alchemists. And I described what happened. They said, dude, that is pure alchemy. Everything that you just said is step by step, a ceremony, a sacred ceremony in alchemy. And my answer was, how is it possible to have this kind of knowledge at that level? Today we have technical knowledge about our bodies and chemistry and the sun and light and what is interacting with. We have that knowledge. We can apply all of that alchemical stuff and figure it out. But back then, you're going back 4,000 years. Where did this knowledge come from that all of these things would happen? And I back up. And so my question, was it taught to them? Did it come from out there, or did it come from the distant past? Is this the mystery schools that everybody refers to? It's a fascinating thought. I don't have the answers.
So my take on that would be, yes, it's definitely mystery school, that either you were there before or you've tapped into the frequency and the memory that's still there in that location. So there's two ways that you can be there. And basically, they would have created these areas. So when you go down into these shafts, and there's various different ones around Egypt, we know them, or I describe them as wells of souls. So it's where the souls pass through. There was often guardians. There would often be an oracle that was there, and that you're consulting with them. Or there's some kind of knowledge or wisdom that's stored from an ancient realm that would come to you as you made that pilgrimage climb down. And that's the alchemy of it, because it's a magical sequence that you go down in. Because I've been under the Sphinx, it's kind of similar to that energetic feel. Or when we've gone down in the crypts of Dendera, similar, that it's a different force field of energy, different world. And so there's what happens on the top, what happens above, but then there's what actually happens below. And in those steps, it's like the staircases that you would have been taken down for knowledge and wisdom, because it was your time. You needed to know something or be aware of something that puts you on your tangent of discovery of what alchemy is again. But for me, that goes 12 to 15, even 20,000 years before we even know that it's there.
When
We're far older.
Yeah. When we look at, and I'm wondering what the Akashic Records has to say about this, but the builder's text, if we take it literal, and we should, I don't think it's like in metaphor or anything, but if we take it literally, it clearly states that the founders of Egypt arrived there. Now that approximately 12,000 years ago,
Yes.
if we plot that out right, that's all up in the air too as well. It could be much older, but the point is that somebody came there already complete with knowledge and upright. And it feels that way to me when we think about all of these advanced concepts that we have about the soul and spirituality and the afterlife and mathematics and engineering and everything else that comes along with that, of course, that somebody brought that knowledge to Egypt. Am I wrong in taking it so literally?
No, you're absolutely correct. There was a lot of knowledge and wisdom that kind of, if you take the continents have changed so much from that. And now, as we know that it carries through water, through heat, through frequency, through ley lines, what I've often seen is there were tribes and groups of people that at some point in history, they spread out. You could say ancient Atlanteans, and they moved to various power spots around the world. And this is why, for me, you see so many things of different cultures, different locations. However, they seem to have these pyramids, they have ancient knowledge and wisdom, they have healing techniques. It all must have come, and this is what I would say from the records, is it came from a central source, a central hub that at one point was not able to be there, and so therefore it dispersed. And that's been carrying on throughout history, that it would look for power points of magnetic energy, and Egypt is a hotbed for that. That's why the pyramids were built where they were, or created where they were, because that energetic of the magnetic was needed to create that force field of energy. And that's what they saw as getting into the afterworld or the afterlife. They needed that knowledge and wisdom and that ancient technology. And that's what they desired, so that they could finish their earth incarnation and go to the better place.
Why is it that professional academics, and we can go from Egyptologists to geologists, anthropologists, archaeologists, why do they fight this so hard? It's just like, why do they fight this when they should explore these concepts and these ideas?
Sometimes I think it's the knowledge and the wisdom that's presented in front of them, that it's a little bit easier to dispute it or dismiss it than kind of look into it, that it might upend everything that they've been taught. It might upend their schools, their universities. I'm fortunate enough that I work with archaeologists that are open to certain things of language, of, wow, that's really interesting how that works. And if you can come from a scientific point, they will sometimes have that conversation. It's not so scary, because what they don't want is, they don't want it going down into witchcraft or sorcery or something that they don't understand, because they've built their whole careers and lives and reputations on a 3D construct.
But that 3D construct is right there on the temple walls, right? It's right there on Papa. You can read, you can see the Egyptians not only took this seriously, but it was so respected by the citizens of Egypt, all the way up to the pharaoh and the priests and everything else, that it was something that would stabilize the country for almost 3,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
3,000. I think that you need to really look at this and try to understand, instead of being black and white with it and dismissing all of it. Right? It's just a belief system. It's just a belief. There's nothing. No, there is something to it, and you should approach it that way. There's a reason why they left all of this historical record for us, carved in stone. Right?
Yeah, it's one of the only places. This is why, for me, I've led groups around many different sacred sites in the world, and Egypt's my number one, because there's so much that's there that you can tune into and you can read and connect yourself. When I'm working with the archaeological teams and those guides, they will pull me aside very quietly and they'll say, I had a dream in here. We had some things, like you said at the beginning, go bang, and we couldn't explain it. Why did our cameras not work? Why did this not work? And so they're open to it, but because of the constraints of the environment they're in, it's not something that they feel comfortable moving into. And this is why, for me, when I'm in Egypt, very often we're cloaked. We're just going through like tourists. We're just going through and observing, but we're having a whole backstory. And so in that way, I choose to have the access rather than the confrontation, or work with it, so that we kind of, like I say, you put a little, honey or sugar on it, rather than vinegar. And a lot of people want to put the vinegar on it because they want the shock and I'm right with this. I know this is. And sometimes it gets driven by the ego. And the thing with an archaeological team, they're so trained in this. when the ego steps in, their ego goes up and nobody gets anywhere. So there's
Yeah, I
ways.
know. It's funny how that works there. I can't say which site, but I was with the director of one of the sites. Okay, take your pick; it doesn't really matter. And we're just talking off to the side about this and that, and having a great time. And he goes, he looks around, he's like, "Okay, so Jimmy, listen, man, I'm with you. When I say that I'm with you, I'm saying I'm with you on all of this. But when we're facing the public, I have to read from a script." Okay. He said, but all of us, we know that there's something strange here. We know that there's more to this, but we have to read from the script.
Yeah.
And that's what he told me. And I and he likes his job.
Yeah, they like their job, they like their security, they like their I've had private conversations with some of the most infamous of the archaeologists in Egypt. And I remember one conversation was about the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid. And it was a little bit like, so there's no tunnels under the Sphinx. No, absolutely not. There's no tunnels.
Nothing here. Nothing to see.
Nothing here. There's nothing here. But there's shafts. And my thing is, what's the difference between a shaft and a tunnel? So it's carefully placed language that if you can read between the lines and, just be easy breezy with it, you can garner so much more information. But yeah, definitely. Those people, I love them. I've been taking groups to Egypt for over 20 years. And I never stop loving it, or the new discoveries that come, all the new discoveries that we find. But when you try to push the doors, you often find that they're shut, they're locked, and there's no way to get through. So it's having that term of unlocking it when it's appropriate.
I got probably the same personality that we're talking about here. We don't need to name names. I got into a very spirited, compassionate argument, debate, conversation at the Serapeum. And right there, and we drew a crowd. And people, they're like, "Oh shit, here goes Jimmy. Okay, let's go." Right. Anyway, but it was just, I just wanted to understand how their mind, Egyptologists, is completely blocked off to any when you can't explain, and you just dismiss instead of, right. So anyway, this thing of all places, it's that place, which is insane, right? Anyway, we walk away, he puts his arm around me, we walk away from the crowd. There's like 50 people, man, around. And he goes, "Look, man, everybody's videotaping. I can't say anything, right? That's going to be on social media." He goes, "Man, but just use your imagination. You're probably pretty close." And left it at that. Without admitting, but it was funny. He goes, "Man, everybody's video, I can't, it'll be on Facebook. I can't say anything."
And it's karma. These places have karmic guardians. They have
For sure.
People that have responsibility for these different places. And this is why you'll have some people have an experience of everyone gets to go where they need to go. And some people come back and they go, "I never got to do anything that I thought I was going to do." And it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that it maybe wasn't the right time, or it wasn't the right energy or frequency for them to go through. And so for me, Egypt is your own self-discovery. It's your own soul return, if you like. And that's why it's so special. And it's an easy place for me to teach how energy works.
This is the best show I've done in a while. Every show that I do is great, Amanda. Every show I do is great. This is smoking. You stay right there. Let's take our break. You stay right there. Our guest tonight, Amanda, Romania, and the new book, Return to Egypt. We'll talk more about that, the Akashic Records, and everything else. This is a perfect night on Fade to Black. Stay right there, and we're going to take a short break. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. JimmyChurchRadio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. I am hosting, speaking, and presenting once again the Conscious Life Expo, the largest conference of its type in the world. February 20th through the 23rd, 2026 at the LAX Hilton. Speakers, event, and schedule easy. Just visit ConsciousLifeExpo.com. I will be hosting and speaking at the Sedona Ascension Retreat, March 20th through the 22nd, 2026 in Sedona, Arizona. An amazing list of speakers, and it's beautiful Sedona. Come and hang out with us and just go to SedonaAscensionRetreats.com. I'm heading back to the Midwest for the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd, 2026, in Delavan, Wisconsin, at the Lake Resort. It is beautiful. This is a great conference right in the heart of the Midwest, where I'm from. I'll see you there. Just go to Contact Modalities Expo, that's XPO.com. I will be hosting and presenting once again at Contact in the Desert. That's May 28th through June 1st, 2026, the largest UFO conference in the world. Come and hang out with us June 23rd through July 1st. Tickets and everything else that you need is at contactinthedesert.com. Want to change your life? Want that paradigm shift? Then visit Peru with Brian Forster and myself for the Inca Celebration of the Sun, June 23rd through July 1st, 2026. A full 10 days of visiting the country, all of the amazing sights, and of course, the celebration of the winter solstice. It's all simple to do. Go to hiddenincatours.com. Come join us for the Monty Python Scotland Tour, August 1st through the 9th, 2026. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event where you get to go to the castles from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. August 1st through the 9th, 2026. Just visit HaleyARamsey.com. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to JimmyChurchRadio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut.
Jimmy Church, Gaia TV, Fade to Black, here at Machu Picchu with Brian Forster and Hidden Inca Tours. Amazing tour so far, Brian, but we're here to announce what we're going to do next year in 2026. What's going on?
Okay, November 2026, we're going to have our major tour of Peru and Bolivia, either a pre or post tour of Paracas and Nazca on the coast. And then after that, 6 days in Easter Island.
Bucket list, Easter Island. Join Brian and I and his amazing team here at Hidden Inca Tours for Peru, Bolivia, and Easter Island. Signing out. Say goodbye, Brian.
Bye, gang.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Amanda Romania is here. Akashic Records in Egypt. My two favorite things all in one show. Want to remind everybody, get your Fade to Black blend coffee, right? This is it. This is what you get, right there. My picture is right there. Go to Amazon. Just simple to search Fade to Black coffee, pops right up. Help support the show, and one of the best companies, River Moon Coffee, in this great country of ours. All right, Fade to Black blend. And let's get straight back to it. Amanda, so we were just talking about the thieving of antiquities out of Egypt, and I'm guilty too. I stole some stuff. And I'm going to show you this priceless artifact that I have. I smuggled it out of Egypt, got searched in Jordan in customs, almost got arrested for this artifact. I'm going to show it to you now. And here it is. It is Horus the Duck. Isn't that incredible?
That's so cute.
5,000 years old, Horus the Duck.
I can see that.
Yeah. They wanted this in the Louvre. I wouldn't give it up. But there it is, Horus the Duck. Look at the craftsmanship of those ancient Egyptians. They are so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, this is pink Aswan granite that's been painted. So there you go. Horus the Duck. What is the okay. Let's have some fun. What does the Akashic Records say? What do the memories say about Akhenaten? E.T.? E.T.? Is something funky going on there? And before you answer, we know so much about Egypt, right? And what is crazy about Akhenaten is there's no record of his birth. There's no talking about him being the child of a pharaoh. All the other siblings are there except him, and then he, as a teenager, right, starts to co-lead Egypt with his father. And the crazy part about it is, when we look at Akhenaten after that, Nefertiti comes into play. He upends religion, builds a new capital, does all of these things, and then just disappears. And it's the imagery and what he stood for. A new god from the stars. That's really, really strange stuff. What is the Akashic Records? What do the memories say about that?
So the memory actually, for me, when I've looked into the records for him, is it starts with his father. And they're just unveiling this in the area of the West Bank, across from Luxor and Karnak Temple. And normally we see the two big statues, and they're unearthing all of the kind of tributes to Ramses II. But you start going back into Amenhotep, who was Akhenaten's father, and he was starting to bring this new thought, this new idea forward. And this was about a multidimensional world. So you had Karnak Temple, the 3D, you had Valley of the Kings, the 5D, and then you had this fourth dimensional world that was in between. Akhenaten took that on. When I've checked into the records about Nefertiti, no one quite knows exactly where she came from either. So for me, she was someone that came from highborn, but she also carried a very specific bloodline group that I saw it kind of going back into Atlantean timelines. So she was like of this special blood group that her and Akhenaten come together. They're seeing themselves in different frequencies, different costumes, and then they move everybody to Tel Amarna. And because that then created a revolt in the temples, because the priests of Amun, they can't control everything.
They're unemployed. They're unemployed.
And what was interesting with that, which is quite topical, is that those that have visited that Karnak temple most people go into the Sekhmet shrine. You know, it's that little shrine where Sekhmet is. And there's actually stargates and portals behind that to different worlds, different dimensions. And so for me, that whole thing that had been in balance in those temples, the priests and priestesses didn't know what to do. And so when Akhenaten and Nefertiti are setting up Telamana, then what you've got is they're creating another dimensional world. And this, I believe, was then connected to visitations from cosmics, from ETs. Why else would you be there? It's a little bit like when you go to Las Vegas, you've got those expansive areas where, thank goodness I'm not driving, but sometimes I feel like I've been teleported out when you're driving through those areas, because there's a lot of cosmic activity. And of course, then there was the revolt. We don't know exactly what happened to Akhenaten's body. They talk about his mummy being brought back, and it's placed on display in some kind of damaged form. But for me, I believe that he was kind of taken out onto another plane. Nefertiti came back and she became the reigning pharaoh, just in name only. And so for me, it's more than just a pharaonic line, a time of a golden age. For me, it really was a battle of light and shadow, of those kind of like the Osiris and Set, the light and the dark. I believe that it was a timeline shift of that. And it was a prophecy timeline as well.
It was such a powerful, when you think about how a single personality, in this case it's Akhenaten, can come in and literally upend 2,000 years of established tradition. Just tip it over, all of it. There are 3 things that you don't mess with in Egypt. 3, right? The army, the religion, and the pharaoh. That's it, right? And it just keep all of it. And it was all stable for 2000. Akhenaten comes along and goes, you know what? Screw this, man. This is what we're going to do now. And he did it. It's very powerful. And the other part about it is the artistic stuff. I want your opinion on this, because Egypt had a very traditional way of art, and it's beautiful. We've all seen it. He came in and goes, you know what? Do what you want. Right? It was like bizarre. It's artistic freedom. Just do your thing. We're gonna go from poly to mono religion. We've got it was just insane what he did. He tipped it all over, one single person, and nearly succeeded, actually, too, as well. 17 years, right? They built that city.
Yeah, when I've worked in Telamana, what I saw was large, you could call it like mica or mirrors, and they were playing with what we call cosmic energy. They were harvesting energy of the moon, the sun, the stars. And what I saw in my visions was people kind of like standing there worshiping to this, as if they'd been literally lifted out off the planet. And again, there was something specific about these ancient bloodlines that they were trying to recreate, that then they would show themselves in these different statues, these different models. And it was very, very different to what we'd ever had before. And if you've ever gone into Tutankhamun's, like his shrine in Valley of the Kings, the artistic temperament's very different. And for me, we have to ask, why is it that he was so protected? His grave was never robbed. I believe that there were so many kind of energetic forces at play, or other forces at play, that move through those Valley of the Kings and Queens at night, that come from a cosmic realm that most people don't really tap into. So for me, there was a lot of advancement, there was knowledge, but there was still a lot of this ET activity that most of the priests and priestesses, because they're just going through their rituals, that was kind of advanced and scary even for them.
With your knowledge, I love this. I hope you can appreciate that I do a lot of research into the subject of Egypt. This is something, you know, I've been there many
A
times.
happy place.
Yeah, it's what I do. Okay, so I have a few things that just sit on top of my head that I can't figure out. All right. So what does the Akashic Records think about this? And you personally too as well.
Mhm.
There has never been a crown found. Now, and what is strange, every depiction of a pharaoh, right? Upper and lower Egypt, the dual crown, it's all over Egypt. It's everywhere. We don't have one. Not one. Out of all of that time, all of those pharaohs, you know, all that royalty, no crown exists. And then we look at King Tut. I'm glad you brought up King Tut's tomb, because everything was there, thousands of artifacts, everything that he needed, everything was there, but the crown. What does the Akashic Records say about that? Was there only one crown that was handed down and is lost to time, which I find very strange? I would think that every pharaoh had his own custom, you know, went to the haberdasher, right? Said, okay, man, I need my crown.
The man that made the hats.
Yeah, the man that made the hats. But why is that? Why have we not found a crown?
For me, when I'm looking back in ancient Egypt, there's very much where that kind of area of the body, the king or the pharaoh would not want that restricted. So yes, he will wear the crown, which is the upper and lower Egypt. If he wears it together, he has both, which is a symbolism to his people that we're controlling all of Egypt. But what I have seen is in kind of private regressions with people, sometimes that they would have like a metal with a certain stone. But for them, a lot of the crown was a little bit like restrictive, that if you have something like that, you're not communing with the universe. And so for them, this is something that sometimes what you will see is the pharaohs often depicted with like the mask that you kind of see with Tutankhamun. Mm-hmm. But when I've been in the Tutankhamun exhibit, there was a very interesting photo, and you're not supposed to take photos, or you weren't with the original museum. And I was with my Chinese students, and one of them took a photo. And what's interesting is when the photo came out, there's a reflection of me, 4 of me, literally around this headdress. So for me, the Egyptians believed that we were earth, fire, air, water. They believed that we had all these different parts of ourselves. So it wouldn't necessarily have been a crown, but there would have been certain headdresses that they wore when they're in secret ceremonies, when they're consulting with their advisors, that were actually bringing their consciousness together. So I think that these were things that they were then incorporated into their mummy, because they needed that to get to the other side, to get on the boat, to get to the 5th, to the 10th dimension. And so I feel that a lot of them were probably buried with them and carried on. And then, you know, it wasn't until kind of in certain ages, medieval, that we started to see the traditional crown, which was a symbolic aspect of a ruler. So that would be my take on it if I was reading the record.
I think there's one in Buckingham Palace. I'm just saying, you know, that. But even Horus the Duck has the crown. See? Even
Horus the Duck has the crown. But you know, a lot of the princesses, the high-born princesses, they would wear, it's like I think it's called a diadem, where it's like a piece of metal, and they would have different symbology, different crystals. And that was to also show their lineage. Because if you were highborn as a female back then, you had 2 options. You either became a wife or you became a priestess. And so you followed into both of those rules of creating that lineage of that family. And so for me, it was often maybe the oracles or the chosen ones that wore something to symbolically show who that they were and that they had this higher divine connection.
I'm going to quote from the movie Stargate real quick. I love that movie, by the way. I love that movie. In the beginning of the movie, James Spader, I think he's like at the Met in New York, and he's giving a talk on ancient Egypt and languages and stuff. And it's one of the best scenes in the whole movie is great. But this one scene, somebody raises their hand and goes, "Yeah, okay, that's great. That's great." But he even talks about Howard Weiss, right? And the graffiti. It was really good. Roland Emmerich really did some good research. Anyway, somebody raised, he goes, "Okay, that's all good. But who do you think built the pyramids?" And Spader goes, "I don't know." And the room empties, right? No, but that's what everybody, that's the question. That's the question. What do the Akashic Records say about this? The age of the pyramids and who built them?
Thank you. I love that movie too. I actually have an 8-foot by 8-foot Stargate in my studio here.
Love it.
Full-size physical one.
Does it work?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it does. I can't disturb the camera, so I can't move it around to show you.
I would love to see it. When I come to Sedona, will you show it to me?
Yeah, you have to come visit. Check out the studio. We have all the weird and wonderful things here. For me, I loved about that movie because he's tracking in through time. And through my research, again, it's that these pyramids were not just something that popped up overnight. They were literally built from within the ground. And then there was monuments built around them. So when you're in the Great Pyramid and you're in the subterranean chamber, that can be a very dark place, light or dark. I've had people have very weird and difficult experiences down there. And then you're making the climb up. So for me, there was advanced technology. They used the water, they used the leverage. Yes, there was a lot of people. I've been to the workmen's villages and seen the shrines and the tombs. And what's interesting is they all have alchemy on outside their tombs, like protection statements and protection spells. So they knew they were working with something that was out of this world, as well as in this world. And our logical brains tell us, well, it was workmen, they moved these stones. But, you know, like you just showed in that amazing clip from Peru, how on earth did they move some of these megalithic stones and create these different timelines that they were aligned to the stars? They were aligned with this. And those go back 12, 15,000 years. And I'm thinking of the ones in Malta that are there set to sound and frequency. And so we just have to be a little bit more open-minded. And then over time, history starts to reveal that. And there's people doing kind of experiments and location finders all over these places now where they've got the radar and they're able to do that. I first visited Egypt, I think it was about 2000. And we went down under the area not far from the Sphinx, and it was where they were doing the keyhole surgery. Mm-hmm. And so they were seeing all of these strange and anomalies that they couldn't explain. But it takes a little bit of research now, and they're starting to reveal more and more, like the shaft that's above the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. I think it's the Japanese with their thermal imaging. That's
the
kind
Muon, of the Muon.
Yeah, that's a really interesting project.
It is.
Because I saw that was actually an open shaft, and I started to see priests moving where they would actually come out and do ceremony, but they're really up high. They're not going up from the outside, they're going up from the inside. And I found that in Saqqara, because you're going from the bottom, you're coming out to the top, which is how the energetic of that place works.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating. But how old do you think the pyramids are? And we can go with the step the red, we can throw that into as well, and the bent pyramid, the black pyramid. But of course, Giza as well. What do you think of the ages of these? Do we go with a traditional timeline that's been placed on it, or
Well, the
are they
traditional
much older?
timelines, like, Khufu and, but for me, what's under there is so much older, and it's older than even time. So I think it was 2019. I'd had my experience in a temple called Medina Habu, which was opposite Karnak on the other side. And that's where I had my Akhenaten and Nefertiti vision of what had happened. And then I kind of came back to Egypt, up to Cairo, sorry, and we're at the Sphinx. I'd finished all the ceremony. Everyone was doing their selfies on the other side. And I was able to climb down underneath. And I'm stood there in the dark, in the rubble, and you can't really see anything, but I just had these matrices of light coming through me. And my work kind of changed profoundly in 2020. So I knew that something had been activated and something else was there. And that's where I started to see that when we're looking at the Great Pyramid, we're looking at it from this dimension. But when we start to track in before that, we're looking at something probably 15 to 20,000 years ago, because nobody's necessarily tracking that as what that was and what that kind of Stargate was that was down there. And that's an area that fascinates me.
When I look at, okay, I know you've been doing the same thing that I do, is I will watch or read the debunkers and the skeptics about Egypt and some of the theories and ideas that are out there. And I watch that just so I have bullets in my gun. Okay. All right. I watch that stuff. And they will 100% of the time dismiss, embarrass, personally attack, do all of the call names and all of this, but they don't give any answers to the things that we put forward because they can't. And one of the things, let's go back to the Akashic Records. One of the things that truly, this is up there with the crown. The missing crown thing is messing with me. I can't figure it out. Here's another one. Out of all of the stuff that is documented from Egypt, from taxes to laundry list and grocery shopping, we got all that stuff. They wrote everything down except for three things. The most important things: how they built the temples, how they built the pyramids, and mummification. There is no documentation on the three most fascinating, craziest parts about Egypt. It doesn't exist. So any skeptic that says, well, no, well, okay, then you tell me, because the Egyptians certainly didn't. And anything that you say is a theory, right? Why did the Egyptians not document this? Was it meant to stay secret? Was it, it's so important to them, but yet it's not there. Why?
I think when you're documenting, there's reading the record of it. And that was a very, very close society that messages and information was passed on verbally. What they did do was they left us behind the clues. You mentioned the afterlife and the mummification process. And there's a really interesting tomb to a king called Seti I, Ramses II's father. And when you follow his tomb and you go into it, when you start to look at the Akashic records that are the pictures and the storytelling on the walls, that's what it's literally telling you. You know, we've taken the scarab and now we're going down the snake and we're going into the afterlife. And then in Seti's tomb, there's all these beautiful stars on the ceiling, and there's a lion. There's a lion's gate that's actually a constellation there. And so you just sometimes have to read the clues. But if you're from a type of background or teaching or training that hasn't been shown how to read these clues or read them in this way, then you're just going to see pictures and you're going to read the hieroglyphs in the way that you see them. I teach all across the world, and I can barely say 2 words in each language. But that doesn't matter, because there's a universal language that we all have, and it's a smile and it's an open heart. And what I found is that when I started to just read the signals and the signs of these, I was kind of decoding the Akashic record without having to sit and go, this is what the hieroglyphics say. When you sit and try to do it like that, of this king at this time of this date, because that information comes from the Rosetta Stone, and we don't know exactly how true that is. For me, they left their stories. If you wanted to tune into the mummification, there's an interesting shrine to Anubis that's on one of the lower levels at the Hatshepsut temple. And again, when you stand there and you kind of start to look at it from the Akashic field, you can actually see what's going on in that sacred area. So you've got Hathor on one side, she's life and creation, and Anubis on the other side, death and resurrection. And so then they had these systems, these ways, and that was about preserving the body in a certain way, doing certain things with the organs because they carried the frequency and they carried the memory because the soul was departing. And we kind of in our societies think that, it's one life and done, but they certainly didn't necessarily believe in that. So this is kind of where you've got to look at the backstory and open the imagination a little bit. And I like to listen to the conspiracies and the stories and what everybody else has, because I find that it's education. And I'll go, no, that doesn't sit with me. Or that's a possibility. That's kind of interesting. And if you can use the frequency words of interesting, observation, imagination, you can tap into the Akashic field. And the Akashic field, like an energetic Wi-Fi, will start to send you messages of things that you see with your eyes open or eyes closed. So I remember that Stargate movie. It opened all of us to this, we can travel to other worlds and other worlds can travel to us. And yeah, it's one of my favorites as well from an educational point of view. With the Galactics, they teach us through movies and through things that we actually see on TV. They teach us through social media. Not all of it's great. Not all of it's easy. But it's light and shadow because that's where our universe is built from. So that's how I look at it.
It is an absolute fascinating fact. There is no documentation on any of this. It's just not there. Tapping into the Akashic fields for answers is as legit as anything out there. It's not there. I mean, I just have to ask why. And then let's go. You just brought up Akhenaten again. Let's circle back to that. At I'm sure you've been there, the new Egyptian Civilization Museum.
Yes.
Right. Oh, is that incredible? Man. Yeah, just absolutely amazing. All the royal mummies and everything.
Yeah.
They say, okay, you can't talk. This is a sacred space. No photography. I'm like, okay, well, you just told me the 2 things I need to do down here. I'm going to talk and take pictures, and they're watching everybody. I'm just snap. Anyway.
I sing to them. I hum to them and sing to them when we go down. Because it's a sacred place.
It's very sacred.
And
they've got the holy music playing,
it's serene. And,
very.
it's interesting because if you watch the procession of how they moved them from the museum,
thing. Yeah.
That for me was, I know it's the hype and it's this, it's made for TV, but for me, there was something so ceremonial there.
Very.
And for me, that was where I'd not been able to go to the mummy room in the Cairo Museum, which is one of my favorite places. The mummy room, as they've created it now, because of the way that it's moved, and you see the different families, but you move through them and I hum to them. So nobody notices. And then they start talking and they start to give you their stories about how life was for them and how they're in the afterlife now, but they're still here present as guides and teachers when we want to open up to that. So I always pay attention to where my group is, because it's often on a pivotal pharaoh or Queen Hatshepsut's there, because they'll take us like a guide. And again, you're just walking through, no big deal, but you're acknowledging them on the soul level.
So funny, you go down there, and if you don't know, you don't know, but you're going to find out. You go down there and you're like, wait a minute. How many King Tuts were there? Jesus, right? It's like 50. It's pretty crazy, pretty big. Anyway, back to Akhenaten.
Yes.
So the statue that they have upstairs, the famous one, right, with his head suspended above. I don't know how tall that is, but it's probably 15, 18 foot tall. It's a big statue. But when you look at that, everybody sees the same thing. They don't necessarily talk about it, but you see it. Either there's two things, one of two things going on there. He wanted himself depicted not his real self, and he directed this artist to carve it this way that didn't look like him, or it's exactly like him, which makes it even stranger because he's got boobs. He's got hips. He's got an elongated, his lips, his nose, his eyes, the proportions. It is the craziest, and he's a pharaoh. So why would you depict a pharaoh that way? Well, one of two reasons, right? You were told to depict him this way, or that's really who he was. What's your take?
Are you talking about the one in the Civilization Museum?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so within that one, for me, he's depicting how he actually saw himself. So for me, there must have been a time when he's had this awakening. He's dealing with a father that's opening all these different dimensional portals. So for him, this is his cosmic avatar. This is who he truly is. This is him from an advanced civilization. And we think of this as our first Earth planet. Last week, I was in Taiwan teaching on Maldek and Peru, the connection between them. And many of my students were seeing themselves in different kind of bodies and types. And, that's thousands and thousands of years ago. And we know that Egypt very much connects into that Milky Way. So for me, it makes it very probable that as Akhenaten's tuning in, he's connecting with his queen for Nefertiti of royal lineage, but also mystery school, because nobody really knows where she came from. And therefore, in that sacred union, when they would have come together as a couple, we talk about it engaging that Kundalini energy that was an ancient thing that was taught in Philae Temple of Hathor. It lifts us into a different consciousness. So all of a sudden, you want to be known as who you truly are. And this is that one, that art, and this is my true self here. And so I didn't necessarily see it from an ego or an elite perspective, although I think it was probably from a very innocent, narrow-minded, that this could be something that would be achieved in that time. But again, he's here today. He's not there the next day. But he wanted to be seen as this, as he truly is, like this avatar version of himself. And I believe that was shown to him.
I like the avatar idea. That leads into 50 other questions. Who is it that he was emulating? What did he see? or what have you. But then the other part, I brought up the boobs. He's pulling down his shirt, right, and showing you his breast. That's not something a king would do, is it?
No, and I feel for him as he shows himself in that cosmic frequency. It's a little bit like.
Do you hear that?
Are we getting? Have you got ghosts?
I hear humming, but it's not coming from in here.
No, I'm not hearing.
It's a. Yeah, there it is again.
It's visitation.
You guys, man, look, listen.
Okay.
No, it's not. Man, my place is haunted. I need to sage this joint tonight and throw some salt by the doors.
You might need some powerful friends. So for me, him actually projecting that imagery, this is a little bit about this collective society that saw themselves as this ascended race. This race that probably first came into the earth in its incarnations and then moved through generations. And therefore, if he's connecting with someone of ancient royal blood and she's giving him that information, this is where his daughters are coming through. And if you look at the daughters, they're kind of shown with those elongated heads.
Yes, all of them.
And everything's pronounced. So we have to then go back and start to say, okay, where in our cosmic lineages on this planet? I think the last time we've really seen those elongated heads is in Peru. Those different skull lines, those different skull types. And so for me, it makes sense that that's where he saw himself. And this is how he wanted other people to see them. And that the further out they got from political hierarchy in Karnak Temple, the more advanced that they became. But at the same time, they've created this illusion where the rest of Egypt is going, well, who's going to do the rituals? We need the food. We need the water. We're going into drought. For them, that's what the pharaoh's job was to preserve the economy, to preserve the protection. And all of a sudden, he's gone, he's left, he's on this ascension journey. And that didn't resonate with a lot of people back then.
Yeah, all of his imagery was in direct contrast with all of the traditional depictions of all the royal families and wives and kids and even their dogs that were, presented, or cats. Their pets were prominently displayed underneath their chairs. All of that was and then Akhenaten comes along and suddenly these, he's walking down to that sculptor and saying, okay, man, cool, but bigger hips. That's literally what's going on.
And you asked about, why would it be the kind of, he's got this protruding stomach and these big lips and these certain like feminine features. However, when I've done regressions with people and we've gone really way back in the records, some kind of people would associate that, like they call it Lemurian times. They've often seen themselves as androgynous, light being bodies coming into a physical container. So therefore, they're not male, they're not female. So I'll often ask the question in the regression, are you male, are you female? And they go, I don't know, I think I'm both. And so then I know that in the record, I'm tracking them back to an even older time or possibly a cosmic frequency that hadn't quite separated. We think that we've always been in these male and female containers, but what if we were in containers where they were both? And we're seeing this a lot with our younger generations where, a lot of people will say, well, they don't know who they want to be. And they just will say, well, I don't want to be identified as male or female or this or the other. And what I've come to discover in their records is at some point, they were light bodies and light beings, and they're coming back at a time when we're starting to merge that masculine and feminine self together so that we can be who we truly are. And some people, it's taken very literally for them, but that's why we have a lot of young people that sometimes they're confused in their own bodies.
This
And
must
I
have
think that was
this
it.
this must have shocked not only the people of Egypt but the priests at that time.
Yeah.
You go around Egypt, and it doesn't matter, old, middle, new kingdom, intermediate periods. It doesn't matter wherever any timeline you go to. You're looking at Ramses or Seti the First, and these perfect depictions, a standardized way of doing things. And then you stand in front of that statue of Akhenaten, and you back up, and it's not like anything else that was done in Egypt. And
No.
I'm not sticking on this subject, everybody, this point, but you got to listen to me. Everybody that goes at the Civilization Museum, everybody that stand, they go, well, nipple, right? It just, you know what I mean? It's just, it's right there. And you cannot help it because it goes against everything else that you can see throughout the country. It's absolutely bizarre to me. And I'm thinking E.T.
Yeah.
How
and
he
that's-
showed up with no background. There's no history of his birth. There's no history of his death. It's like he just came and went, man.
He's
Like
annihilated.
David Bowie, just showed up.
And for, in that, I think in that Civilization Museum, there's kind of like a prayer or a script, but it's so highly elevated that it's almost like you're communicating from something or someone from another world.
Yep.
And I think that's what scared the priests, the priestesses, the cults, because all of a sudden we're going back further in the timelines, and rather than the mysteries being hidden, unspoken, revered, here's a king that's front and center giving us this. Because with Tutankhamun, he was seen as the golden child. He was seen as bringing of the golden age. And we've seen this time and time again. Like with King Arthur, he's bringing the golden age. Jesus is bringing the golden age. And as a society and humanity, we've not really responded in such a great way. They've all ended in challenges or tragedies. And we've seen this through history. It's kind of that's in the history books.
Would you call Akhenaten a heretic pharaoh?
To many of them, to
If
the
you know what I
cults,
mean.
that was what he was. They
Yeah.
saw him as a heretic. He brought in this new lineage. He's only had the daughters that we know of with this queen. He's securing certain bloodlines because his daughter, the one that was married to Tutankhamun, the general sought to covet her for himself because this was a power line. It was a power lineage. If you could control that, you could control Egypt. And I think that's what Akhenaten was doing. It's a little bit like he was taking divine direction rather than going and standing in front of the gods and goddesses one by one. He was in direct contact. And I don't think it was necessarily the Arten. I think it was more through extraterrestrial races.
Yeah, I think so. I'm okay with that. It's really, I've done so much research in ancient Egypt, and I more probably as much as any Egyptologist. All right. And as I get into it more and more, I start to really have these bigger questions that just the puzzle pieces don't fit unless you go with ET, unless you go outside of the box, and then things make much more sense. It's very strange. Okay. In the time that we have left, speed round with the Akashic Records. You ready?
Okay.
Where is Cleopatra's tomb?
Cleopatra's tomb, I would place her a little bit around where, just outside Alexandria. I think is it Osiris Magna? That's where they're excavating those kind of areas in that kind of space. That's where I felt her presence. That's where I've seen the visions of her in the teachings, because they again had the shafts.
Alexander the Great. Where's he?
Alexander the Great, for me, he's kind of somewhere where they've tried to bring him back, but I believe that he was moved into around possibly the Holy Lands. I believe that he went through the mystery schools, the Babylonian teachings. I believe he was trying to get to Tibet and to India. So for him, this is a little bit like if he was going to be anywhere, it would be what they're giving me is kind of around that kind of Sinai area. And then I believe that Ptolemy, who worked for him, the general, and the people came back kind of to leave him off that trail.
Yeah, and I'm going to make this really quick because we're out of time. I have one more thing I want to ask you, but Ptolemy, most people don't know. Okay, Cleopatra, the Greeks, all of that was because of Alexander going to Egypt, doing his thing, taking over the country, and when the chips were starting to, he gives the country to Ptolemy, and that whole lineage, that whole Greek part of all of that was Alexander's boyfriend that he grew up with.
And I think with Ptolemy, he'd gone through the mystery schools with Alexander.
He sure did.
If you're in the back shrine of Luxor Temple, that's where I've channeled Alexander the Great. And there's actually signage in the back there that actually gives you information about him, but right in the back, just before you like kind of hit the street, that's often where I felt his spirit and his presence. But it's a powerful temple because it's one of the only ones that has very clear depictions of Seshat, the goddess of the Akashic Records, and Thoth, the scribe. It's on the back of a Ramses II statue. So we know that this was a record house and pieces of information. And I believe that Alexander the Great wanted this kept in the mystery school lineage that came from his mother and father, that he wanted brought through and honored then in Egypt. So that for me is a sacred space where his kind of spirit resolves around.
Fascinating conversation tonight. Now we're going to be in Sedona for the Ascension retreat. What do you're going to be doing? What three events? What are you going to be talking about? What's going on?
So I'm doing 2 speaking events, and I'm talking about love portal stargates, cosmic frequencies of how love and universal connection comes in. And I'm also doing an outward journey, a hike to the House of Apache Fire, which is in State Park. It's one of the sacred areas, but you actually get the panorama there with Thunder Mountain. So it's the ley lines where we do a remote viewing journey out through the portals of the inner earth, and we take that into frequencies of Lemuria. So lots to talk about. And I'm vending there. I'm kind of meet and greet there. So I love to see the people that connect and come through.
I love that. So are you saying you can take me to a portal where I can find love?
I'm sure we could.
That's what I'm talking about.
You have to check in your records, see what's there for you.
Amanda, what a great conversation tonight. The time just blew by. I want to get I'll have Michelle get with you and come back and let's do a deeper dive into these subjects. Just a perfect night for me on the show. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
My honor, my pleasure. Thank you.
And Horace the Duck says thank you.
My relics do too.
Yeah. I'll show you my other stuff sometime. Have a great night. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening out there in Sedona. And
everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Absolutely. I'll see you in a couple of months.
Okay. See you soon. Bye.
Perfect night on the show. That's what you do here at Fade to Black. Amanda Romania. Now, her links are below over on our website and throughout social media. Go and check out all of her stuff. And of course, come out to Sedona and hang out with us at the Sedona Ascension Retreat. Links for that are below on social media and over on our website. All right. So there you go. It is New Year's week here at Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, David the Leo King Palmer is here. Why? Well, we do this every year with the Leo King. 2026 is upon us. So that will be the discussion tomorrow night with the one and only David, the Leo King Palmer. Thank you, Amanda Romania. Perfect night on the show. All of you Fadernauts, I'll see you right here tomorrow night. But for now, all I've got is Gobekli Tepe. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Gobekli Tepe.